Good evening. Looks like I'm here by myself. Anyway, this week, the Stop Talarico PAC was formed by Washington insiders, and these Washington insiders include none other than Marco Rubio and the Talarico is drawing a lot of fire, a lot of heat. The National Republican Senatorial Committee is on record this past week saying that James Talarico is the most radical, woke Democrat Texas voters have ever seen. He is the most radical, woke Democrat Texas voters have ever seen, and that's from the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Hey, y'all, I'm Dorothy Burton, and welcome to our Tuesday Night Live, where we talk about things of Texas and D.C. and America to figure out what's going on and what our government is doing to us, and especially our governor here in Texas. Hey, Susie, I'm so glad to see you. Susie, I love Susie. Y'all, so we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about Talarico. I'm going to lead off with Talarico. And then we're going to end up with what the government is doing with our voter records. Now, I have talked about this before. When it first came out in December, when everybody was like Christmas shopping and all that stuff, you know, the devil never sleeps. And so while everybody was doing Christmas shopping and everything, our governor in the state of Texas was turning over our voting records to the DOJ. Unheard of. Unheard of. Texas was among the first states to turn over our records. So I'm going to get to that because a lot of people are being impacted by that, and a lot of people will be impacted by that. They just don't know it yet, but they will when they try to vote and find out that they are no longer on the roll, or as prominent Dallas attorney this week, Domingo Garcia, got a notice from the county elections department that he was no longer on the roll because he evidently was deceased. And this is the kind of stuff that's going on, and this is the kind of stuff that will be going on until August. And I'll tell you why until August. But let me start out with what I said I was going to talk about, and that's James Talarico. James Talarico is scaring the bejeebers out of Texas. He is scaring the bejeebers out of the billionaire class, not only in D.C., but in Texas. Now, if you know anything about Texas government, if you've been listening to me for a while, if you know anything about how Texas runs, you know Texas runs principally on 2 billionaires. Actually, 3 if you count the billionaire's brother. The Wilkes brothers and Tim Dunn. Between Tim Dunn and the Wilkes brothers, they fund Texas. And when I say they fund Texas, I'm not saying F-U-N, I'm saying F-U-N-D. They F-U-N-D Texas. Hey, Michael Goodman. So glad to see you. They fund Texas. As a matter of fact, they have bought Texas. They have bought Texas to the tune of practically every Republican, if not all, Republican legislators have money in their coffers from the Wilkes brothers and Tim Dunn. Now, I am going to put a link in the comments because I want y'all to go back. I want you to go look at this documentary that CNN did. I'm not asking you to look at it because I'm in it. I did not want to be in it. It cost me to be in that. Woo! Okay. See, I was on the speaker circuit, right? With Christian Dominionists and Christian Nationalists and Seven Mountain Dominionists because that was how I rolled. I mean, I taught that stuff. I was in that world. So I thank God that I have deconstructed, whatever you do, from that. But I was so immersed in it for so long that it's almost like breathing to me. So when I see these things that come out in the news with Wilkes Brothers names attached to it and Tim Dunn's name attached to it, I want you to look at that CNN documentary. Jot it down. I may put it in the comments. Let me put it in the comments because I want you to. It's called Deep in the Pockets of Texas. It's on YouTube. It's about an hour maybe, and if you're not familiar with how Texas runs, even if you have been in Texas for a while and you think you know how Texas run, I guarantee you, if you haven't been following Texas politics, you really have no idea how Texas runs and who runs Texas. So Talarico now not only has a target on his back from this PAC now that formed last week. What I tell you name was let me see, Stop Talarico PAC. And it is the Washington elites that have formed this PAC, and it includes, as I said, Marco Rubio. So not only does he have that, but he also has to contend with the billionaire brothers and Tim Dunn in Texas. Not only that, Ken Paxton, you know how dirty Ken Paxton is. Now, if you've ever contributed through Act Blue to any candidate, I have to tell you that Ken Paxton has now filed a lawsuit against Act Blue because, you know, Act Blue is the platform through which most Democrats, even local Democrats, because I've contributed to my friends through Act Blue. It's mostly for small donors, but Ken Paxton has filed a lawsuit against Act Blue in an attempt to cut off a mechanism by which people, small donors, I'm talking about small donors, you know, up to, you know, $100, $250. And that's where mostly Talarico's funds come from. I think he said $500,000 of 500,000 contributors to his campaign so far, almost 500,000 people, are $100 or less. And that platform, Act Blue, is where candidates use, it's the platform that they use, Democrats use to raise money. So Ken Paxton has filed a lawsuit. Now you have to know that Ken Paxton, with Talarico, with these billionaire class against Talarico, the race that's shaping up is not, when we get past May 26th, and I have been saying this, I've been saying this over and over. When we get past May 26th, the man left standing is going to be Ken Paxton. Because Ken Paxton has the backing of Dan Patrick. He has the backing of the billionaire brothers, the Wilkes brothers. He has the backing of Tim Dunn. Tim Dunn and the Wilkes brothers bought his way out of that lawsuit. Remember when he was up for, you know, he got impeached in the House, the Texas House, and he got acquitted in the Senate? Well, guess who presides over the Senate? The lieutenant governor presides over the Senate. And guess who the lieutenant governor is? Dan Patrick, who is a big supporter of, see, all this stuff is convoluted. But here comes Opie. Here comes somebody that out of nowhere that has gained all of this support, that has gained all this attention, and they are scared to death. You heard what the Republican senator, I've never heard the Republican Senatorial Committee, and I've been here a long, long time. I have never heard the National Republican Senatorial Committee make a statement against a Democrat candidate that I can remember. They may have against Beto, I don't remember. But for them to call him, Talarico, the most radical, woke Democrat, and I'm reading it like they said it, like the statement came out, the most radical, woke Democrat Texas voters have ever seen. Couple that with this PAC out of Washington, D.C., with the Washington, D.C. elites, which includes Marco Rubio and some more, I'm sure. And Talarico has a fight on his hands. And he raised, as many of you know, he raised that $27 million, which is more than any candidate, senatorial candidate in the country, I think, has ever raised. And that scared them to death. It was after that reporting of that $27 million that it came out that this Washington elite PAC, Stop Talarico, has formed. So everything in Texas, the government of Texas, is controlled by, bought by, purchased by the Wilkes brothers and Tim Dunn. That's why I want you to go look at that. I want you to go look at that documentary, especially if you are new to Texas or you're not familiar with how Texas politics works, you're going to be in for an eye-opener when you watch that documentary. Those same people that's in the documentary, those same people that knocked out some of the most storied, some of the most respected Republicans in the state of Texas, these are the same people. These are the same people that are behind killing. And if they could kill Talarico and get away with it, they would. That's how much they hate him. The school vouchers, the 10 Commandments, the Christian nationalism, these policies that you're seeing in our schools, the Bible curriculum, all of this came from the Wilkes brothers, particularly Ferris Wilkes, because Ferris Wilkes calls himself a pastor. Tim Dunn calls himself a pastor. So you can imagine with the right wing, and the Wilkes brothers came from nothing. I told you I used to be on the circuit that the Wilkes brothers funded, the Christian speaking circuit. Okay, so the Wilkes brothers, particularly Ferris Wilkes, he's a pastor of this church. It's a strange church, but it's a Christian nationalist church. So between Tim Dunn, and between his brother, that's who runs Texas. Talarico scares them because they've never come up against someone like Talarico who has the prowess, the fundraising prowess, the popularity, and the youth. See, Beto was fire. Now, Beto and Talarico don't have a message that's not very different, except Beto didn't get into the Christian part. Their message is not very different, but their method is different. Their message isn't, but their method isn't. That is what is so attractive across the aisle for people with Talarico. It's like this old story. Y'all know I'm an old country girl, so I'm gonna tell you a story. The north wind and the sun, they had a bet. And there was a man walking across the meadow. He had a coat on. The sun and the north wind made a bet. The north wind said, I bet you that I can make him take off his coat as he walks along. He's not on that. He said, I can make him grab his coat really tightly around him. And the sun said, well, I can, no. See, this is an old story, so I'm trying to remember because I'm from a little girl. The north wind said, I could blow my coat. I could blow my wind so hard that I would make him cuddle his coat closer to him so that he could stay warm. And then he made the bet with the sun that the sun couldn't do the same thing. So he huffed and he puffed to make the guy get rid of his coat. That was the bet. He huffed and puffed to make the guy get rid of his coat, to blow the coat off the guy. But the harder the wind blew, the closer the man pulled the coat to him. And the sun just kept shining brighter and brighter and hotter and hotter. And as it got hotter and hotter, the man not only took off his coat, he took off his shirt, he took off his trousers as the sun heated up the place, as the sun heated up the meadow. And then he saw a pond and he went and jumped in the pond to cool off. You say, Dorothy, why are you telling us a crazy story like that? Because the moral of the story is this. The wind huffed and puffed and tried to make the guy take off his coat. The sun just shined really, really brightly and really, really quietly, which compelled the guy to take off his coat. Beto is the north wind. Talarico is the sun. And that's what's scaring them. They can deal with a blowhard. They can deal with a north wind, but they can't deal with the sun, see? Because the sun is just quiet and it just keeps shining and it keeps getting warmer and warmer and warmer. It's like the story. The guy gladly took off his coat. Why? Because he was so uncomfortable. And that's what the Republicans fear with the voters. They know these voters are unhappy. They know these voters are not are struggling. But see, they can't count on a Beto because they know how to handle a north wind. Beto come in hot. He come in, I mean, not like the sun. He comes in smoking. Not Talarico. Talarico come in like a little old quiet boy. And people love him. And the Republicans are scared to death of him. So they have trained their sights on Talarico. And when they formed that deal, those DC elites formed that Stop Talarico, and you got these big people contributing to this thing, that tell you right there, they are scared to death. Let me show you another thing. Let me tell you another thing. What scares them? Let me show you this. I used this back. Yeah. I used this, y'all, back in the primary. And I want to show you this because a lot of people don't believe that Texas is as young as it is. Most people believe that Texas is an old white state, but it's not. Texas is a very young state. As a matter of fact, Texas and New York City have about the same average age. And we see what happened in New York City with Mamdani. Okay? So a lot of people believe that Texas is an old white state. It's not. The average age of Texas is 35.8 or 39. The average U.S. age is 39. Talarico is 36. Ken Paxton is 63. Corning is 73. Excuse me. And we won't get into all those other demographics. But that's another thing that scares them about Talarico. Because Talarico looks like Texas. The average age is 36. Talarico is 36. The Texas population, a lot of people think that the Texas population is old and white. It's not. Texas population is young and brown. And I say brown because Hispanics make up the largest population in Texas. Even though blacks have the largest population of any state in the union, Hispanics actually make up the largest population in the state. And I showed you last week how that Hispanic businessman down at the border represented so many people down at the border who have lost businesses, who have been, impacted by ICE. They have turned away from Trump, and the Republican Senatorial Committee knows it. Paxton knows it. The Texas, the Ferris Wilks, the Wilks brothers know it, and Tim Dunn know it. So they are coming after Talarico with everything they have because for the first time in over 30 years, Talarico was like 5 or 6 years old. Think about that. Talarico was like 5 or 6 years old when the last time a Democrat, Texas had a statewide Democrat. And I say this again. I'll say it again. It's going to take, if you are for, now I'm going to be talking more and more, not so much because I am for or against, but I am for Talarico because I know what Paxton or Corning represents for Texas. But I'm going to be talking more and more and making that contrast between them. Because after May 26th, and y'all know I have said this since December, I have said since December that Ken Paxton is going to be the guy. Because if you look at his support, now he is a horrible, horrible man. He is a horrible man. But he's conservative, he's MAGA, and he's not John Cornyn. And they hate John Cornyn. And you can even see the support if you pay attention to the supporters of Paxton and Cornyn, the old guard Republican class is supporting Cornyn, the Bushes, Rick Perry, that class. Those are the dinosaurs now in Texas because the Texas Republican Party is run now by Christian nationalists and people who are like Ken Paxton, MAGA. I'm not saying, in personal life, I don't know that. But they're MAGA and they're Christian nationalists. Cornyn is not that. Cornyn has never been that. And Cornyn, to his disgrace, has tried to be that, and he's not that. So it is going to come down to this right here. And when you line them up, and see, this is what scares the Republicans, y'all. They are in a quagmire because Cornyn is not going to win because Cornyn is not the guy. Paxton is the guy. But you look at Paxton's age at 63, and you look at Talarico's age at 36, and the average age of Texans being 36, and the largest population in Texas, Hispanics, are breaking. They broke for Talarico in the primary. They're going to break for Talarico. The Republicans also know that. So he's going to get the youth vote. He's going to get, and they also know this. They also know this. When you stand them side by side, when you stand James Talarico and Ken Paxton side by side, that scares those older Republicans who are Christians, because they know that Paxton is a hoe. He's a man of ill repute. I'll put it like that. He's a man of ill repute. To the point where y'all know Robert Jeffress didn't want to endorse Cornyn, but that class, Robert Jeffress, what's the guy's name down in San Antonio, the big fat guy? John Hagee, has had John Cornyn at his church to introduce John Cornyn and his wife. Jeffrey's the same, to introduce John Cornyn and his wife. You see? Because they know that Paxton is a tramp. They know that Paxton, but for Dan Patrick and the Republicans, they know that Ken Paxton would have been in prison a long time ago. He should have been in prison a long time ago with those securities charges back in the day. He should have been fully impeached. He should have been impeached by the Senate and kicked out of office, but he wasn't. Not because he's a good guy, but because he's their guy. And when I say their guy, it don't matter. And now, you know, it had to hurt Robert Jeffress to have to endorse Cornyn over Paxton, because really Robert Jeffress, if he had his way, I guarantee you, he would endorse Paxton. But how can he, being a man of God, endorse Paxton, knowing, you know, his background? But he endorsed Trump. It's all fake. All fake. I guarantee you, Robert Jeffress out there, yeah. He endorsing Cornyn. He getting that voting booth. He gonna do something totally different. He gonna vote for the MAGA man. He gonna vote for Paxton. And I don't even think it's gonna be as close as people say it's gonna be between Paxton and Cornyn. I really don't, because Cornyn is the guy. So Paxton now has. So let's recap. We have launched this Stop Talarico PAC. The elitist in D.C., Ferris Wilks, the Wilks brothers, and Tim Dunn, they have come out. They are buying think tanks. They are buying, I made the list, they're buying think tanks, they're buying media outlets, and they are Christian nationalists. And North Texas, particularly North Texas, is ground zero for Christian nationalism. A lot of people don't know that. I keep saying it because it's true. So with all of that against Talarico, and it's going to get more. There's going to be more once we get past May 26th, and it boils down to him and Paxton. It is going to be one heck of a race in Texas, and all eyes are going to be on Texas. Talarico already has, the Hollywood types, the star types contributing to his campaign, and on the other hand, we see who's contributing to Paxton. So if we want a continuation of what we have seen in this state, if we want to see this Christian nationalism agenda, if we want this 10 Commandments agenda, if we want Turning Point USA, and that's another thing. Y'all have heard me talk about that Turning Point USA. How Dan Patrick contributed $1 million of his own money to support Turning Point USA chapters in high schools and college campuses because they are going after the next generation and they're going for the youth vote come November. And our governor has all but threatened school districts, saying if you don't allow Turning Point USA chapters in your high school, we're coming after you. And I think somebody told me we have 3,500 high schools in Texas, so you do the math. That's the kind of stuff that they're running. That's the kind of thing that Talarico is up against. And now you throw in the senatorial committee, the Republican senatorial committee. You throw in this PAC now out of D.C. It is no small thing. And we have never seen a race. They say that we have never seen a woke Democrat candidate like Talarico. That's what they say. But I'm telling y'all, we have never seen a race that we're about to see after May 26th. So if Talarico is your guy, like Opie is my guy, pray for him because he is about to go through the fire like he has never been before. And it's going to boil down to, y'all, a lot of it is going to be Christian nationalism speak. A lot of it is going to be Christians against Christians, which is horrible. And we know that that's not of God. So they've already attacked his faith. That's already out there. We've already talked about that. But this new thing, these new targets with the Stop Talarico and PACs are going after Act Blue, the very platform, so that donors, people won't be able to donate. And that not only will hurt Talarico, but that will also hurt other candidates who depend on that platform, Act Blue, to raise funds. But that's how they're playing it. They are out for keeps, and if they could get away with physically killing Talarico, because they do have a target on him, unlike what we've not seen, they would do it. They would do it. So I wanted to start out with that because that's what I said I was going to start out with and talk about. So now I'm going to switch gears. Let me get some of y'all's comments. Let's see what you guys have to say. The Texas Democrat Party is having a difficult time regarding the state director. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm telling y'all, it seems the excitement has boiled down. It'll go back up. It will. It has. And that's normal after the primary. But after the runoff, I keep saying, after May 26th, it's fixing to be on. Yeah, it is. So let's talk about y'all's voting records. Now, and be sure I got the and I put it in the comments that I want you to watch that CNN documentary. Just take the time and watch it, especially if you're not from Texas and you're part of our community here. If you're new to Texas, if you've been in Texas and just now getting really interested in politics and how it all works, start with that CNN documentary because it lays it out. And it's sad. But that's just how it works in Texas. So let's talk about the voting records. Now, when I brought this up back in December, I had to look back. I thought I brought it up in January, but I brought it up in December. And what made me want to do a refresher on this is when Domingo was talking about he had gotten the letter and he said he was deceased. So what's going on, y'all, with all of us is this. The Trump administration, Donald Trump, wants to actually nationalize the voting system. I'm trying to get my notes because I want to make sure I get this right. Since I haven't visited this since December, but this is what's going on. The latest is, let me see. Let's go back to December. And this is not going to take long. I'm going to bring you up to where we are. There are now 17 states. These states have turned over their records to the DOJ. Alaska, Arkansas, Indiana, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nebraska, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Wyoming. Now, if you live in one of those states, you had no idea that they had turned over your voting records to the DOJ. People who live in Texas had no idea. And I remember the date. I think it was something like December 18th, because it was like the week before Christmas. I was shocked when I saw that Greg Abbott, our governor, had turned over our voting records to the DOJ. And I'm going, why would he turn over our records to the DOJ? The DOJ has nothing to do with voting, because voting is left up to the state and local authorities. But the Trump administration has a very different idea. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, there were four plaintiffs that filed a lawsuit against the DOJ. Let's see if this is the one I want to. Yeah, this is the one I want. This is the one I want you to see. Let me put it back up there. Yesterday, 4 entities filed a lawsuit. I think it was yesterday, against the DOJ. And one of them was CREW, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. And they made this statement: this effort to consolidate millions of Americans' confidential voter data in a master federal database is part of a larger illegal scheme to take over states' constitutional roles and federalize election administration. And that's the goal, to federalize. You would hear them say federalize or nationalize elections. That's what they're talking about. The state's responsibility for maintaining their voter rolls is enshrined in the Constitution and federal law. And we look forward to stopping this egregious overreach in court. And that's from the chief counsel at CREW. Now, CREW, along with ACLU, Protect Democracy, and ACLU-DC, joined together to file this lawsuit against DOJ. Now, back in December, when I first let me explain this, because you will hear them talk about states who have voluntarily turned over their records, and then there are some states who turned over their records without an MOU. What the Department of Justice is requiring states to do is sign a memorandum of understanding saying that they turn over their voting records to the state and that they agree to work in conjunction with the state to, in essence, purge these records. So 11 states, now it's 12, and now I think the last number that I saw was 17. They have given their voting records over to DOJ with an MOU, with the Memorandum of Understanding. Now, 4 states, Arkansas, Indiana, Kansas, and Wyoming, said, hey, y'all can have them. We don't need an MOU. We trust you, federal government. You can just have our records. Yes. Yes. There have been a total of 30 lawsuits filed. 29 states are in litigation right now. And I think it was yesterday that the DOJ, no, it was Friday, that the DOJ lost to Rhode Island because Rhode Island sued. And there have been so far 5 defeats, and 25 cases are still pending because these states are fighting against turning over their voting records. And you can imagine why. Now, at the time, this is what the DNC chair had to say. And this is when I did this back in January. DNC chair Ken Martin said the turnover of such data is tantamount to a big government power grab and would invite privacy violations and could result in eligible voters being kicked off the rolls. Okay. The DNC, he said in a statement, won't stand by idly as the Trump DOJ tries to get access to Texas voters' sensitive information. Well, Greg Abbott made sure that they did. So Greg Abbott gave over all of our records. So this is the process. And this is, y'all, this has never happened before. This has never happened before. So this is like the first time in American history that the DOJ has even demanded confidential voter information. It's never happened before. And they have demanded it from all 50 states and Washington, D.C., and they are compiling these records into a single voting file, and they're going to work, and when I say they, I want to be very clear because it gets complicated. The DOJ is the agency that's requesting the voting records. The DOJ is going to work with, now get this, the DOJ is going to work with Homeland Security. You're going to say, what does Homeland Security have to do with it? Nothing. But Homeland Security has this tool. It's called the SAVE tool. I talked about in January, SAVE. And it's the systematic, it's for weeding out undocumented people. And it's called the SAVE tool. So if you hear them talk about the SAVE tool, that's actually with Homeland Security. But DOJ is using the SAVE tool to weed us out, us, American citizens, to weed us out. And the SAVE tool is the Systematic Alien Verification Entitlement Database. So they are running us through, our voting records through Homeland Security's SAVE tool. I want you to write that down. I want you to remember because you're going to hear it more and more. And it means the Systematic Alien Verification Entitlement Database. So this is how it works. This is how it works. I explained it last year. The states, those states who cooperates with DC, with the Trump administration, it's a 4-step process. It's a 4-step cleansing process. And when I say cleansing, I mean cleansing. So the states will sign a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, saying that they give over our voting records, all of our voting records, which includes our social security numbers, our driver license numbers, all of that. And that's why the DNC chair said, that is the holy grail of every citizen that's in the United States. And they're going to have all of our information. So I took the liberty, because I wanted to make sure, because I had not looked at this since January, that I want to make sure that I tell you the steps. It's 4 steps. And y'all remember, some of you remember me saying that. It goes from the state to the DOJ, from the DOJ back to the state, and from the state to the DOJ, and then finally it comes back to the state. The state send them to the DOJ. The DOJ cleanses the records, and when they send, and I want to read exactly what the DOJ, when they get those records, after they get those rolls, they will test, analyze, and assess the information, our information. The department then will notify the state of any, and I want to get this right, of any voter list maintenance issues, insufficiencies, inadequacies, deficiencies, anomalies, and this last one, or concerns. And they get to determine what those concerns are. And they get to determine what those anomalies are. So this scheme right here, along with the SAVE Act that the Trump administration is trying to pass, will kick off millions and millions of people off the voter roll. No telling how many have been kicked off now, because I just read what they look for, and this is nebulous. When I say nebulous, I mean the federal government gets to determine what these maintenance issues are, the insufficiencies are, what the inadequacies are, what the deficiencies are, what the anomalies are, what the quote unquote concerns are. They get to do that. And once they do that, under their judgment, whatever falls under these inefficiencies, inadequacies, deficiencies, anomalies, and concerns that they have not bothered to tell us what they are, and then they send them back to the state. Remember, it has gone from the state to the DOJ, and the DOJ looks to determine these factors that I just read to you. After the DOJ does that, they send them back to the state. The state sends them the original. The DOJ cleanses them, looking at these factors that I just told you, these nebulous factors that they get to determine. And then they send them back to the state. And then the state cleanses them. The state cleanses them after the DOJ has cleansed them, looking for insufficiencies and inadequacies, deficiencies, and all that stuff I just read to you. And then they send them back to the state to do the same thing. And then the state has 45 days to do this second cleansing of the records, looking for any ineligible voters, however they determine that to be. The voters that's left. See, because by the time they get this thing back from the DOJ has already weeded out people, according to what I just told you, according to what they determined to be insufficiencies, inadequacies, deficiencies, anomalies, or concerns. They already do that. And so they send them back to the state. And then the state cleanses them. And then the state resubmits these records to the DOJ for verification. And what does the DOJ do? The DOJ again looks for insufficiencies, inadequacies, deficiencies, anomalies, or concerns, and runs it through the SAVE tool, the Systematic Alien Verification Entitlement Database. Then they send it back to the state. Once they've done the second cleansing, they send it back to the state. And then the state gets to do a final cleansing, a purging is what they call it, a final purging before the election. And I think it has to be 45 days before the November election. So while we've been sleeping from December, but my people ain't been sleeping, because I told y'all back in December, hey, y'all, guess what the federal government doing? So that's the process. So in between time, from the time Greg Abbott gave over our roles, and remember I said he gave them over in December 18th. The DOJ has had opportunity to run all of our voting records through their list of inadequacies, deficiencies, anomalies, concerns, those nebulous things, and then to run them through that database that I told you, the SAVE database. So some of us have already been purged. We just don't know we've been purged. Because what the state has now, they don't have it now because they've turned them back over to the DOJ, because the state has already cleansed them too. I hope I'm making sense. So now we're in the phase of the second cleansing. Some of us have been purged and we don't know it. So now that our records in Texas, and if you live in one of those states that I just listed out, the same applies to you too, depending on when your state turned over your records. I know ours did December. So that's why I know Texas is way down the road on this, because Texas was one of the first states, Texas and those states that I just showed you. They willingly, even it was some, let me show you. It was some that it didn't even require, I don't think I put that list up there, but it was even some that, hey, we don't even have to do a MOU, we'll just give them to you. And that's where we are, and that's why some of you are not on the roll, because the state has done this second cleansing, and our voter rolls are back with the DOJ. And what the DOJ is doing what they did the first time around, looking for what I just told you. And then they're going to send them back to the state. Now, once the state gets them again, they don't have to send them back to the DOJ. Remember, the DOJ has already had them twice by then. The state has had the cleansed record once. So when they get them back the last time, when Texas get these records back for the final time, Texas get a second go around at purging people or cleansing the list. And it has to be back, I think it's like 45 days before the election. So that's like August. So some of you are purged already from the first go around, because it's from the state to the DOJ, from the state back to the DOJ, and from the DOJ back to the state. That's the process. And that's why the ACLU, that's why the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, and that's why Protect Democracy, that's the other agency, filed suit Friday. And they are listed as the plaintiffs on behalf of the American people. Now, California, Oregon, and Massachusetts, I think it's Massachusetts. I think it was California, Oregon, and Massachusetts. They won their case. They sued, they won, they done. DOJ, unless they take it, higher. But California, Massachusetts, and Oregon, hey, they got out there early and they said, we're not doing this. And they won. The DOJ, so far in court, have had 5 defeats. They've had no wins. But the bad news is that there are 25 cases still pending. Y'all remember, I know you do, Minnesota, when those 2 young people got murdered by ICE? I don't know if you were paying any attention, but ICE told the state, if y'all give us your voting records, we'll leave you alone. We'll leave the state if you give us your voting records. Yeah, go back and look it up. That was part of it. So that's where we are with this. And, the 17 Republican states, y'all live in those states like we do in Texas. Not only are they not fighting it, they willingly gave it over. Colorado and Wisconsin, I think, they publicly rejected the MOU. Not doing it. So states are fighting. Our state just isn't fighting. If you live in Texas, or if you live in that list of states, those 17 Republican-led states that I read to you, they're not fighting either. So what can you do? You can check your voter registration. Because, see, the next election coming up is May 26th. And that's the runoff. But after that, all summer long, y'all, we're going to have to keep our eye on this, because it is a fast moving thing. Let me see if I, I don't think I showed you this one. And this is from Virginia K. Salome. She's the president of Common Cause, and she's the CEO and president. She said, this is a blatant partisan power grab designed to cast doubt on the validity of our elections and whose votes should be counted. By attempting to interrogate and exploit voter data for political purposes, President Trump's DOJ isn't just threatening the privacy of every American. They are building a system designed to imprison the ballot box and silence millions of eligible voters. We won't stand by while Americans' rights to privacy and voting are under attack. So, y'all, that's where we are. I want to make sure, that's where we are. Yeah, okay. I wanted to make sure that I went through those because I wanted to make sure that you knew what was going on. So check your voter record. Especially if you're in Texas, or if you're in one of these states, or even if you're not in one of these states, because they're doing some nefarious stuff. And it all comes down to the November election, because the Republicans know that they're going to lose, and they're going to lose big time. So they're doing whatever they can. And if they can confiscate these voter records, and they have, for many of these states, especially if you live in a Republican-led state, your voting records are already gone because they voluntarily gave up the voting records to go through that 4-step process that I told you about. And And it's no joke. And by the time it goes from your state to the DOJ and back to your state and then back to the DOJ and then back to your state for the final time, millions of people are going to be purged. Now, we went through this in Texas. If y'all remember, we went through this last summer when Greg Abbott quietly purged over 1 million people off the voting record. Greg Abbott did that. He did that last fall, I think, before even turning over our voting records in December. And it's not only our voting records. It's our Social Security numbers. It's our driver's license numbers. See, that's what they say. When I tell you that, and see, the goal was this, y'all. The goal was this. If they had passed the SAVE Act, which would have prevented millions of people from voting, the SAVE Act, now don't get it mixed up because they're both the same. The SAVE Act and the SAVE tool are not the same. The SAVE tool, remember, is with the Homeland Security. That's what they're running the data through. But the SAVE Act, together with them purging these records as they are, that would have negated millions, untold millions of Americans. And that's why ACLU, ACLU-DC, Protect Democracy, and CREW, that's why they're fighting so hard. And we still don't know what they are. See, when they couch it under insufficiencies, inadequacies, deficiencies, anomalies, or concerns, and they get to know what that is. So anything, if my middle name is Lorraine. For years, I spelled my middle name with one R because I thought it was Loraine. No, I thought it was spelled Larane. And that's how I spelled my middle name all the way through college. And then I got my birth certificate and saw that ain't how you spell your middle name. It's Loraine. But if I had gone to vote under this, or if they had looked at my voting record and I had been signing Larane, thinking that that's how I spelled my middle name, but on the birth certificate it's actually Loraine, I would have been kicked off the record, off the roll. So that's how easy it is for you to get kicked off the voting roll, even though the SAVE Act has not gone anywhere. The purging with our records being turned over from the states to the DOJ is moving like a freight train, especially in Republican states. So I was not surprised when I saw Domingo on Facebook and that he had been purged, because Texas is right in the middle of it. Texas is now on the, Texas has given over, they've given back, Texas is on the third leg of this. Remember I said it was 4. The state hands over to the DOJ purges, DOJ hands them back to the state further purges, giving them back to the DOJ. The DOJ gives their last go over and then it gives it back to the state. And when the DOJ gives it back to the state that second time, that's the record that's going to stand. But except the state also gets to purge. They do, up until I think it's 45 days. So yeah, that's what's going to be happening this summer. And I am going to keep you informed. And I know that you listen to a lot of good news. I'm not a news person. I'm not a newscaster, okay? I'm just here to help you make sense of all this stuff and just try to explain it along the way so that you'll understand what's going on behind all of this. So like with Talarico, like I explained to you, it's just not, he being, I wrote that down because y'all, I'm going to keep that thing. Let me see. I'm going to say it again. The most radical, woke Democrat Texas voters have ever seen. the National Republican Senatorial Committee. And so, and like I just showed you the demographics, they see those numbers. They know those numbers. So, and the Wilkes brothers and the Tim Dunns and all those, and how they work behind the scenes and how they work, I know how they work. Yeah. See, y'all, God don't waste nothing in our life. We don't know, what God is preparing us for. So when I when I do this and tell y'all this stuff, it's nothing I've read. It's stuff I've lived. I'm not very proud of a lot of things I've done politically. I'm really not, because I used to, man, if I tell y'all, I was the best teacher on that 7 mountain of dominionism. I could make you believe all that stuff was true, because I got the theology training too. And see, that's what's so egregious and scary about some of these people. It just depends on how we use our knowledge. And the devil is very, 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 very smart. Very smart, but he's wicked. So he uses his what he knows in a very wicked way. Because he didn't lose his power, he didn't lose his wisdom, he didn't lose any of that. But it's just now used for wickedness. And so we get to choose how we use what God gives us. So I thank him for that. A lot of people, they get on me because I was a former Republican. I was, to my heart, and a Christian nationalist, and an evangelical, and a graduate of Dallas Seminary. Oh, y'all, let me tell you this. I gotta go. I'm gonna tell you this. I know y'all let y'all go because I try to stay just an hour. I don't try to keep y'all. I gotta tell you this. Let's see. Based on what we know about Paxton, the entire Christian facade, when the Republican goes out the window, they don't care. I know you would think they don't care though. I'm telling you, they see. That's why they have to say that. That's why they have to say that Stop Talarico PAC millions of dollars, and that's why the National Republican Senatorial Committee. I told you I've never heard the National Republican Senatorial Committee coming out this early against a Democrat candidate, because they've never seen a Democrat candidate like Talarico. Talarico is the son. He ain't Beto. He ain't the win. He's the son. And he is winning a lot of their people to his side. A lot of Christian people, young people for sure. And Talarico has the kind of boots on the ground that Mamdani had. And it's amazing to see. They're about the same age. New York is about the same. New York City, the average age is about the same average age of the state of Texas. And that's what I'm saying. If you don't know Texas, you would think that Texas is old and white, and it's not. It's young and brown. And the white population is diminishing, and they know that. And then what scares them too about Talarico, before there had not been a candidate that could raise the amount of money and to raise the kind of attention, national attention and national affection that Talarico has. That has never been. And it scares them to death. In the age of social media, it scares them. Because you see what they're putting up. They're putting up a 63-year-old, tramp, criminal. That's what they got. And and it's going to be so funny, because that's what them Christians are going to have to defend. And they're not looking forward to that. So they have to tear Talarico down, but it's not going to work. And that's why Talarico has this big target on his back. Because Talarico represents to them everything that they say that they are and that they're for. With the exception of, his left liberal stuff. But other than that, they can't get him on the Christian stuff. They can't get him on his lifestyle. None of that. He just a clean-cut kid. He Opie. That's why I call him Opie Taylor. He just Opie. You can't game God? Yes. Sure can't. So is our online status accurate? It could or could not be. It depends on it depends on if they're up to, you know what? Y'all, I hate to say this, I'm going to say it. Our online voting records, they're maintained by who? Jane Nelson? Is she the Susie knows. Isn't she the Secretary of State? Who is the Secretary of State? As a Republican, you can't trust them. You can't. You can trust your county. If you're registered, you got your card, you got all that. You just have to keep checking. I hate to say it like that, but that's why a lot of people they're gone. They're just gone. And the thing about it, y'all, they don't have to tell you. And they're not telling us. They're not. They're not. That's why I can't sit up here on Tuesday and play. I can't sit up here and gossip. I don't care about none of that because we're about to lose the most precious thing we have, and that's our right to vote. And I would not put it past Trump. And I saw something the other day, and I sure hope it doesn't happen. You know, the War Powers Act, you know, if they say if we're at war, if he declares that we're at war, he can, you know, call off the election. I don't think that's going to happen. I pray that won't happen. But what I just told you, that's happening for real. Yeah. Sad. Based on what we know about Paxton, the corruption, divorce, impeachment. Oh, yeah, we are. Yeah. It's going to be fun to watch them twist themselves in knots to support Paxton. Well, y'all thought I got. That's why Talarico has a target on his back, and that target is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Remember I told you about Paxton suing Act Blue? And if Paxton if he's successful in tying up Act Blue in the courts, then that means that major platform for donors for the Democrats, not only in statewide, but even locally, is going to be tied up too. And that's what they want to do. They want to cut off the money. They want to cut off every spigot that they can. They want to prevent you from voting. And I'm just not saying this. Like I said, I'm in a real uncomfortable place. I got to tell you, I'm in a real uncomfortable place. But I ain't used to defending Democrats. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not. And the people that I'm speaking against are people that I've known for years and that helped me get to where I am. But I had a decision to make. It's going to come down to all of us having a decision to make. For me, it was the money. It was either keep doing what I was doing, and I was good at it, and I was black, and I was theologically trained by Dallas Theological Seminary. All that. And I was a former elected official. But y'all, we can choose to use what we have for God, or we can choose to use what we have for the enemy. And it's coming down to that for a lot of us. So yeah. So I'm not comfortable sitting up here saying a lot of things that I'm saying because I'm saying it against people that I know. And people that I've shared the stage with, and people that have contributed to me, you know. But truth is just truth. And when God gave me this platform, I told him, then Lord, you know, as far as I know, that's why I had to come back the other day. Remember, I had to come back yesterday because I told y'all, man, Alan West ain't playing. He playing. You wasn't playing. Them Republicans wasn't playing in Dallas County. They weren't playing. So if I say something and it's not true, and I find out it's not true, or I've said something, y'all call me on it. Please call me on it, because that's not what I'm not here for sensationalism. Y'all, we got too much on the line. And this voting thing, like the person said, I'm a quarter and then I'll be gone. For the first time in American history, the DOJ has demanded confidential voter information from all 50 states and Washington, D.C., and is compiling that information into a single record system for the first time in American history. Whew, that's where we are. So while we taking summer vacation and all that. They depended on us taking. We can't take off. And we can't take our eyes off the ball because it's just too much going on. And our government in Texas is just, it's just corrupt. It's just corrupt to the core. Corrupt to the core. Yeah, Jane Nelson. Now, Jane Nelson used to be a senator. And I think Jane Nelson, wasn't she a school teacher? She started out being a school teacher back in the day. No, that was somebody else. That was somebody else. But Jane Nelson, yeah, she was a senator. Now she's Secretary of State. So do you honestly think that Jane Nelson gives a flip about Democrat voters? So remember, they said the system crashed. Remember primary night? We can't trust our state. So like I said, there are people like me who do this. So just have good sources and people that you trust and people that you can, depend on to tell you the truth. Because it's so much deception out there. It's so much. And I know I'm going to get it. I've already got it. I don't care. But this thing that we're dealing with this voter thing, y'all, it's no joke. And that's why, like I said, when I saw Domingo, he probably got caught up in that. Probably. I don't know. But like I said, they've had our records since December. Yeah. Texas was one of the 17 GOP-led states that voluntarily, without even an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, just gave our records away. And I want y'all to remember what they're looking for, and they get to name those issues. They call them voter list maintenance issues, insufficiencies, inadequacies, deficiencies, anomalies, and concerns. And only they know what that means. It means what they want it to mean. And with that SAVE tool, that systematic alien verification entitlement database, I guarantee you the people with surnames, Hispanic surnames, Muslim names, names that, don't sound like Jones and Smith, I guarantee you they're going through that tool. Now tell me, what does the DOJ have to do with Homeland Security? Nothing. And what does the DOJ have to do with state voting records? Nothing. Because each state is has the constitutional right to its own voting records, its own voting. So all of this is unconstitutional. But Trump is a man of lawlessness and he doesn't care. He doesn't abide by the law and nobody makes him abide by the law. So this is where we are. Now, y'all tell me, I've looked at several articles. It is not outlined anywhere what insufficiencies, inadequacies, deficiencies, anomalies or concerns are, or concerns. Oh, we're just concerned because your name don't look right. So we're going to have to purge you. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening. That's what's happening as this train moves towards November. So the Wilkes brothers, I want y'all to look at that documentary. I put the link in the comments. I want you to please look at that documentary. Deep in the Pockets of Texas. It is the best documentary, not because I'm in it, not because of that, but it is the best documentary of how things go politically in Texas that I've ever seen. They did a masterful job on that thing. And then you'll get introduced to the Wilkes brothers and you'll get introduced to Tim Dunn. And you will even see them in pulpits preaching because they're Christian nationalists and they're very, very, very wealthy. And they have one goal. One, it's not even to elect. Paxton is going to get elected. But they have one goal, and that's to stop James Talarico. That's it. By any means necessary. That's it. So when I say Talarico has a target on his back, Talarico has a target on his back, his chest, his head, everywhere. Because Trump is after him. The Republican Senatorial Commission is after him. Committee is after him. This now big elite Washington, D.C. PAC, Stop Talarico, that includes people like Marco Rubio, are after him. So they would not be after him if they weren't threatened. And they are threatened because for the first time in 30 years, Texas could flip this state. Texas could flip this seat. And they know it. And that's where we are, y'all. Y'all know I appreciate you so much. And yeah, she was. Jane was elementary school. I thought she was a school teacher. I remember her from back in the day. Back in the day when I worked for Lee Jackson. That's actually where I started. So anyway, y'all, thank y'all so much, and be watchful. And that's what's going on with the records, with the voting records. And I wanted to come back. I was going to make it all about Talarico, but I felt a need to come back and revisit this issue from when we did this back in January, because a lot of people weren't paying attention. But please pay attention. And that is the back and forth ping pong that they're playing with our records. The state has 2 times, the DOJ has 2 times, and millions of people, by the time they end up, millions of people are going to be purged from the records, people that won't even be able to vote, but who are eligible to vote. Thank God for, ACLU, DC, and CREW, and Protect Democracy. I think they filed that suit just Friday. Yeah. 25 states cases are pending. And like I said, California, Oregon, and Massachusetts, I think. Yeah, won theirs. But only those 3 have outright won. Well, Rhode Island just won. So, but there are more cases in court that have been won. So we're still way, way, way out there with this thing. So this is where we are. This is where we are. This is where we are in Texas with Talarico. This is where we are with our voting. This is where we are, you and I are, with us as voters, as Americans. Yeah. They're not only trying to prevent us from voting, they're taking away our right to vote. They are completely negating us. Negating us. When I say negating, they're purging us. Like we don't even exist. Y'all, stay vigilant. Please stay vigilant. I love you. You know I do. I love the work that God has given me. And please call me on anything that I've said that's wrong, that you find out that's not right. We're going to make it right, because this is the kind of community that we're growing. Oh, and I don't have my graphic up there. I was going to make this announcement tonight because I told y'all I would, but I don't try to keep you long, and I try to not bumble through stuff. And what I say, I want it to be valuable to you. And y'all, let me tell you this. Y'all know they're doing that American reading of the Bible, right? Okay. Y'all know my organization is Christians in Public Service, right? So Bunny Pounds, who is Christians Engage, her organization is Christians Engage. Bunny Pounds was a down and out former congressional candidate. She had lost her congressional race, and she had a consulting firm, a political consulting firm that wasn't doing too great. We're in Garland. So she knew of my organization. And see, when I formed my organization in 2014, I was still in that world. I was evangelical, Christian nationalist, sharing the platform with people like, James Robinson and all those people. So anyway, so she visited with me. She wanted to come visit with me. She visited with me. She's down and out, just down and out. And so she got the idea to form her organization, Christians Engaged, from my organization, Christians in Public Service. And she sent me the logo and she said, Dorothy, I just want to run this by you to see, you know, what you think of it. Thank you so very much. Thank you for helping me and all that. And next thing I know, so what you see when you hear Christians engaged, know that it came from Christians in Public Service, and know that Bunny Pounds was a down on her luck congressional candidate who had lost the congressional race, who was barely holding on to, and I'm not talking about, I'm just saying how people do. I'm just saying how people do. I'm disappointed more than anything because, you know, she's taking that Christian nationalism turn bent. I won't. I refuse. Ain't enough money in the world. But we still help people, don't we? Because that's what we're supposed to do. So anyway, thank y'all so much. Let me see. It's my time, nearly 30 years in power. Yeah, the state. Yeah, we could. Yeah, that's the thing. And you know what? Thank you so much for that comment. They know it. When I say they, I'm talking about the Republicans. And I'm talking about the Wilkes brothers, the billionaire class in Texas. They know it. And when y'all watch that documentary, Deep in the Pockets of Texas, keep this in mind. Those people that you see on that documentary are these same people that are coming after Talarico. The same people. These people have bought the legislature. They have bought Ken Paxton. Dan Patrick is in there. Bought him too. The whole legislature. And I ain't saying nothing that people don't know. They are in the pocket of the Wilkes brothers and Tim Dunn. And they do their bidding. That's why we have the Ten Commandments in schools. That's why we have the Blue Bonnet curriculum in schools. That's why we, have this Christian nationalism agenda in our schools. That's why we have Turning Point USA in our high schools. These people are the ones that's behind it. And Talarico represents to them. It's like when they see Talarico, it's like a vampire looking at a cross. They can't stand him because, he knows the word too. He's a theologian too. But he's not like them. Not like them. All righty. Y'all, thank y'all so much. I appreciate you. Love you. And if the Lord stay the same, I will see y'all next Tuesday. Stay vigilant, y'all, because they try to take everything they can from us. But the devil is a liar. Y'all, take care.